Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second day of our online conference, Teaching and Assessing Young Learners. My name is Julia. If you can hear me well, please put a plus in the chat box. Wonderful, I can see so many pluses, thank you. It means that the connection is okay from my side. So, today we are going to talk about assessment. So yesterday, during the first day of our online conference, we were talking about teaching, and our presenters shared wonderful teaching techniques and explained and gave advice how to develop these or that skills: speaking, listening, or writing and reading. So thank you all who took part in our conference yesterday. That was really great. Today we will focus on assessment, and the first session is devoted to assessment criteria of young learners. Before we start, we have about 1 minute. I'd like to remind you how to use this platform. We do recommend you to use Google Chrome. If you have some problems with the sound or video, please refresh the webinar page or reconnect to your internet connection, or type @support in the chat box and a member of the support team will help you. Please be an active participant and provide feedback, ask questions. Just a reminder, there are we use chat box for some general communication, and there is a special section, questions. Please type your very special questions there, and our presenters will be happy to answer. The recording of the webinar will be available next week, and the certificates of attendance will be shared with you. Okay, and I want to remind you about our online contest, our Cambridge Wiley class. This online contest is for young learners aged from 7 to 12 who are preparing for Cambridge English qualifications designed for young learners. What they need to do: create a short video, about 3 minutes, and explain how and why they are preparing for their exams. The video can be recorded in English or Russian, and you need to publish it on our contest group in VK. I will share the link with you. The winners will receive wonderful prizes from Cambridge Assessment English and Cambridge University Press, textbooks, and the winner, number 1, will be able to take a Cambridge English exam for free. So that's really great opportunity. I'm sharing the link. Just a second. Today we have 4 sessions, and we have wonderful presenters from different parts of the world, from Brazil, Argentina, Spain, and Russia. So in a couple of seconds, I will share the link to our contest. Please have a look. The submission period is open till the 28th of February. Here is the link. Okay, thank you. It's 4 p.m. in Moscow, and I'm happy to introduce our first presenter, Alberto Costa, Cambridge Assessment English presenter, Senior Assessment Manager. Alberto, please click on Go on Air and start.
Hello, Julia.
Hello, Alberto. How are you today? Thank you for joining us.
I'm fine, and I would like to thank you as well for the opportunity, right?
It's a great honor for us to see you here today. Thank you very much. And I see so many participants, so we are excited. Let's talk about assessment criteria for pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Julia, and thank you very much, everyone. I hope you are all well, and I hope you enjoy the content of this presentation where we are going to talk about assessment criteria for pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers. So my name is Alberto Costa. I'm speaking from São Paulo in Brazil, and it's an honor to be talking to teachers in Russia. So thank you very much once again. So we are going to start talking about the Cambridge exams. Many of you will know well that we have a series of exams. In each exam is aligned to the Common European Framework of Reference. So this Common European Framework of Reference is a well-known document which has organized and mapped a number of language competencies to each of the different levels, and in each of the four major skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And the Cambridge exams are aligned with this framework. And this framework is actually a very good reference for us to establish targets and to understand what is it that we need to develop in order to perform well in the Cambridge exams. So here we are going to forget the other exams for the time being. So we are going to focus on pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers to understand that each of those exams, they are at different levels, and each level comprises a number of competencies. Here, we have a summary of those competencies or can-do statements for pre-A1 starters in two different groups: listening and speaking, reading and writing. And you can access this information in the Young Learners Handbook for Teachers, which you can download from the website. But the reason why I'm bringing those can-do statements is that all this mapping of micro skills or competencies, they have been put together, and they focus a lot on the positive performance of the candidate. So they focus on what the learner can do rather than on what the learner cannot do. And this is very important because it involves a different mindset when we look at learners' performance, when we are monitoring their speaking activities, or when we are marking their writing activities, right? So it's very important to look at the positive aspects and rather than focusing on the negative aspects. So when we give feedback, we focus on things that they did well, first of all, and then areas that they can work on and how we can best help them with this feedback. So again, I have the summary of can-do statements or competencies for level A2 flyers. And one of the things I'd like to share with you is that when we look at those competencies in the case of pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers, is that we are looking at a number of things that already happen in our classes, and we can incorporate even more of those statements to better prepare learners for communicating more effectively. So this is the main goal. We are preparing the learners for the exams, but those skills, they are actually learning for life. So skills of communicating, collaborating, etc., which is very important. Here we have an illustrated summary of some of those competencies for each of those exams, and I am highlighting the fact that we are focusing on what learners can do rather than on what they cannot do. Well, the other thing about the exams is that we don't have a pass-fail approach to those exams. Every learner that sits those exams will get a certificate, and the certificate will come with a number of shields. So they can get up to 5 shields for each of the components of the exam. And those shields have also been mapped to the competencies in the Common European Framework. So we can see here a reference of how many shields will mean that a learner is at a certain level of the Common European Framework. Ideally, when the learner gets a minimum of 10 shields, it means they are ready to prepare for the next Cambridge exam, right? So this is a very good illustration, which you can access when you look at the statement of results that the candidates receive. This diagram is also available in the handbook for teachers. And there's something I'd like to share with you, which is now in place ever since last year, which is the statement of results. And this statement of results that the students receive when they sit the Cambridge exams will now come with individualized feedback. So the statement of result will tell each individual candidate areas where they are strong, areas that they need to work on, and suggestions of what those learners can do in order to improve in the areas to work on. So it's a detailed document that the candidate receives before they receive the certificate. And on the back of this statement of results, you will see a summary of those competencies that are expected at each of those levels or each of those exams. So this reference now is available not only for the learners and the learners' families, but they are also available in local language so that the families, if they do not speak English, the mother or the father, the grandmother, for example, if they do not speak English, they will be able to understand the learners, the candidates' performance in the exam with all this individualized feedback in local language, in Russian, which is great, isn't it? So this is happening this year. When the learners sit the exams, they will be getting an individualized report, and we are very happy to share those news with you, right? So when we're talking about those three exams, starters, movers, flyers, we see that Cambridge has a number of objectives. So why is it important for learners to sit those exams? Well, first of all, it's a moment for the learners to start their career as language learners and having means of assessing their progress through an instrument that is international and that will give them a measure that is globalized and will reflect competencies that are known worldwide because all those competencies are now written, accessible, available to everyone. So, what are the objectives of those exams? Stimulate the use of English so that communication is relevant and meaningful. So, it's very important to develop those communication skills. Measure the skills accurately and with fairness. So, it's important that everyone involved, school, families, candidates, are aware of what is expected from the learner so that they can see how the exam measure those skills. And also, it is a fair measure because any learner anywhere sitting those exams will be getting accurate results according to criteria. It's important also because they give a positive first impression of the experience of city and international exam. We are talking about exams that are colorful, that are attractive, and that will give the learners this sense of familiarity with things they already do in real life, and the fact that they don't have the pressure to pass or fail because feedback is the most important thing at this moment, right, for them. Also, those exams make language teaching and learning more effective, which is great because there is an impact on teaching and learning, considering that a number of things that we'll do will be reflected in the exams. and will impact language teaching more effectively. And of course, they encourage continuous language learning because all those exams together, they form this pathway for long life learning with milestones along the way. So this is one of the points we like to highlight about the exams. So, what do the exams assess in detail? So we are going to start looking at the criteria now. First of all, and above all, they assess and they cover all the four skills. So it's important that the learners are ready to read, listen, write, and read, listen, write, and speak. And it's important that those skills are developed in fair amounts and equally, because then the learner will perform well and confidently in the exams, right? And we can also see when we look at the three exams, this sense of progression. And this sense of progression is also clear in the way the papers are structured or constructed. We can see, for example, that the papers for pre-A1 starters are shorter, and then they become longer as the level gets higher. So we can see here an idea of this sense of progression from one exam to the other. And the other thing that connects those exams is what we call this task alignment. You will see a task in starters, in movers, in flyers, but they have different degrees of challenge. However, there is this alignment because of the age range. Many of the things they see in the exam are things they are used to doing in their normal life when they read comic books, access internet materials full of colors, games, etc. So we can see this sense of progression from one exam to the other, and the construction of each exam reflects this degree of challenge from one exam to the other, right? So we are now going to look at the listening component, which is the first one in the starters, movers, and flyers exams. And what we're going to look at is a comparison of pre-A1 starters listening and A2 flyers listening. So as I mentioned before, we are talking here about task alignment. That is, the tasks are similar in the two exams for this part specifically, because we also have tasks that are different from one exam to the other. But what we notice is the difference in challenge. So, for example, you can see here for part one in starters, learners will be looking at some possible actions, or maybe the focus will be identifying the people in the image because of the colors in their clothes. And then when we go to A2 flyers, the image has language that is more appropriate for this level. We are going to talk about language according to levels in a moment. And we'll also see different actions, different objects, so that the learners can identify the people. And perhaps you will need more information in order to identify who is who in the image according to the task, right? So a similar task, but with a different degree of challenge. This is also true when we look at this part of the listening component. When we compare pre-A1 starters and A2 flyers, we see that we have a similar task, which is in starters, they have to listen and color, and there is one example. In flyers, they have to listen, color, and write. And then we have one example over here. But there is also there are also other differences. For example, in starters, the object, which will be the focus of the assessment, is repeated in the image. So for part four, in this case, it's all about balloons. Whereas in flyers, The objects are not about balloons or boats, etc. It's about different objects. And they have to write a word and they have to be able to spell the word correctly in the exam, right? So, listening is about familiarization. So, it's also about the vocabulary related to each exam. It's about understanding the sounds of the English alphabet and identifying those sounds. It's also about pronunciation, which is important. And also, we have to be able to do certain things as a candidate in the exam. At starters level, understanding and responding to simple instructions, at movers level, understanding short dialogues, the content, the reaction of the speakers, and at A2 flyers level, you need to be able to understand brief descriptions of people, objects, situations, etc. So we see that there are different demands according to level, and all those demands are part of the criteria, right? So we are now going to play a quick game. I will not be able to see you reacting to my commands at the other end of the screen, but let's play it together as if we were a big classroom, right? The name of the game to practice listening with learners preparing for pre-A1 starters involves Teacher Says. You may be familiarized with this game, but Teacher Says focuses on listening skills and focuses also on visual. It's a visual activity. And how do we play that? Listen to my commands and do what I say, right? This is the instructions. Do what I say, but listen to my commands. So, touch your nose. You have to do what I say, not what I do. So this is one way of practicing listening with learners preparing for pre-A1 starters. Just a very quick activity that we can play here, but you can grade the challenge of the activity a little bit. I will give you another command and do what I say, please. Touch your hand. Okay, what's the level of challenge here? Words that have similar sounds, but they are not exactly the same. For example, hand and head. So it's one way of practicing those sounds in English. So if I say to you, touch your hand, or I can say, touch your head. And the idea is to trick the learner to get them to focus on what they hear, but not on what they see, right? So it's one activity that you can play with your learners. And we have a booklet of warmer activities, which I will tell you where you can find, right? It's available on our website, and Teacher Says is one of the activities in the warm-up game. So let's move on to talk about another skill here, which is the component involving two skills, reading and writing for those exams. So when we look at the reading and writing paper, I'll have here some reading activities. I'm going to go back again to the term task alignment because those parts that I'm going to show, they are similar in the three exams, but the degree of challenge is quite different. So here is one example of a reading activity from starters. They have to complete to fill in the gaps, complete the text with words they see in the box. And you can see that there is a lot of scaffolding, a lot of support for the candidate here. We have the word, we have an image of the word to help them understand the text and fill in the gap with the right word, right? This also happens when we look at part 3 in movers. We have a much longer text to complete. We have images and words. So the words are supported with the images to help learners complete the text. And we also have another degree of challenge, which is learners have to demonstrate that they have understood the text by choosing the best name of the story. This is also similar when we look at part three in flyers, where they have a text fairly long, but this time they have the words, but the words are not supported by images, right? So it's important to demonstrate that tasks may be similar, but there are means that make the degree of challenge quite different from one exam to the other. And of course, we have tasks that are different from one exam to the other, and you can see that when we look at the sample papers which are available from the website. But looking at some of those tasks and the criteria to assess them, in terms of production, in terms of written production, when we look at pre-A1 starters, for example, we have a reading and writing task where learners need to look at the images and answer the questions about the images by completing with one word. So you can see here that by reading, we do not mean only interpreting characters, understanding the letters, but we also mean reading by interpreting images so they are able to answer the questions and complete with one word, complete the gaps. And this changes as the exam level progresses. So we can see here, for example, for this specific task in pre-A1 starters, learners get 1 mark for each correct answer. It's important to mention that spelling is important in this task. So they have to get the spelling right here, okay? When we look at movers, we see that learners have the opportunity to interpret an image. So they need to understand the image, but they have three different things to do here. They have to, first of all, look at the example, and then they complete the sentences with a word related to the image. Then they answer two questions about the image, and then finally, they have to write two sentences of their own about the picture. So you see that in one task, we have three different degrees of challenge here: completing, answering questions, and then writing sentences of their own. And when we look at the criteria, it's important that learners, for example, demonstrate that they are able to do it, and they will be getting either 1 or 2 marks depending on their performance. And you can see here on the left the criteria for this specific task in movers. That is, learners will be getting 1 mark for completing the sentences with a word, but they will be getting 1 or 2 marks for answering the questions, and again, 1 or 2 marks for writing sentences of their own. And it's important that we as teachers, when we give learners feedback on this task, we look at the criteria to assess learners similarly to the way they are assessed in the Cambridge exams. And this criteria is available in the handbook for teachers, right? So flyers, it's already level A2. The degree of challenge is much higher. And what learners have to produce for part 7 is a text. Basically, they have to look at the images, and they have to create a story and create a short paragraph, which means they have to put a lot of competencies together. For example, organizing or sequencing the events, organizing the paragraph, linking the sentences, using punctuation. For example, there are many things that they need to do, and they are assessed according to criteria. So they could be getting from 0 up to 5 according to criteria, as long as they do what each mark in the criteria says. If they describe a progression, if the response is based on all the images, which is part of the criteria, if the response includes at least one phrase, so they get 2 marks only for this. So what are the points in the criteria looking at? They are looking at spelling, so it's important to look at spelling. They are looking at sentence construction. They are looking at a clear sequence of facts, inclusion of all the pictures. So it's important to tell learners that they have to include all the 3 images when they write their paragraphs. They have to use the verbs in the past. And last but not least, they have to use the verbs in the past. And then when they look at the assessment of reading skills, we are looking at the understanding of short sentences. This includes questions, and the understanding of texts on concrete subjects with the support, with the aid of images, right? In terms of reading, we are also looking at the understanding of short narratives on familiar themes. So some things to look at and to make sure we develop those skills in the classroom. In terms of writing, we are looking at where the learners can copy or spell words correctly. Copy it because you will see they have the words already with the help of images in starters and movers, and then they have to include the word in the text, in the gaps. Whether or not they're able to construct short sentences about objects, pictures, actions, personal information, whether they're able to write a simple story with the support of pictures and including their own ideas. In the case of flyers and movers, we saw there is one tiny bit as well. And of course, it's important to remember that correct spelling is essential in all parts of this component, right? So this is one question we get asked many times. What if there is a letter missing or the positioning of a letter, etc.? Well, in order to help us with this, those exams have word lists, which are specific for each exam and each level. And we can use the word lists to practice language in class and make sure learners are familiarized with the spelling. Some questions we get asked as well is whether American spelling is accepted. Yes, they are contemplated, and you will see American spelling in the word list as well, which the exam takes into consideration. So they need to make sure that the spelling is correct in the exam. Now we are going to play a game called Kim's Game. And Kim's Game is a classic in the English language teaching classroom. So I'm going to start with a high degree of challenge because we are all teachers, right? So I'm going to show you an image and I'm going to give you some instructions, and I would like you to use the chat for this, okay? But I'm going to show you the image for some time, and then I will hide the image to make sure you can still remember what you saw, okay? Yeah, spelling is difficult for young learners, I agree. There's a comment here. So let's play Kim's Game, and the focus here is look at the image and type the animals that are brown. Only the animals that are brown, okay? Look at the image, type the animals that are brown. Okay, which animals are brown? Can you use the chat and type your comments? Please, which animals are brown in the picture? Only the ones that are brown, okay? Okay, you saw a lot of brown animals. My goodness, okay. So you got the point, right? So this is one way of playing with Kim's Game. As I said, I started with a high degree of challenge, And why was this challenge high? Because I'm showing you a picture. A picture is full of images, and I'm kind of selecting or directing you to focus on specific animals over here. For example, you wouldn't be typing the elephant because the elephant is not brown, and this was part of my instructions. And you can use this image to do a number of things. If you have learners preparing for flyers, for example, you could ask them to write sentences describing the actions. For example, what is the girl in purple jumper doing? And they, instead of writing words, they can write short sentences. They could use this image to tell a short story or to write a short paragraph at flyers A2 flyers level. Movers, they could write individual sentences of their own, following some patterns. And you can also kind of grade the challenge for Kim's game, for example. And before I show you this other idea, those posters can be downloaded from our website. I'm going to show you where you can find them. And you can play Kim's game with a number of different posters, right? So another way of grading the challenge, if you want to make Kim's game easier for learners preparing for pre-A1 starters, instead of showing an image full of information, full of objects and people, etc., you could show individual images grouped. Maybe you want a bigger number of images. Maybe you want a smaller number of images. That will depend on the level of your learners, on the language you are practicing at the moment. And you could also play Kim's game by taking a picture of objects in your house, and you can use this picture to show your learners and get them to practice the language that is specific for the level, right? So because of mobile phone and tablets nowadays, we can take pictures of anything around the house, and you can use the image to play Kim's game with learners. And then you can add more things, or you can use fewer objects depending on the level. So those pictures can be downloaded from the website. I'm going to show you where you can find them. And before I get to those wonderful resources, we're going to look at criteria for speaking. So we have the speaking component in starters, movers, and flyers. This component involves one speaking examiner and one candidate at a time. So it's two people in the exam room. And of course, the degree of challenge varies according to the task that is set. So for example, task alignment will happen when we compare movers and flyers, but not necessarily starters. So this is just one of the examples of tasks for pre-A1 starters, which includes looking at the picture and making sentences about the picture, but also following instructions as the examiner will give you some objects and will give you instructions to place the objects in some parts of the picture. So they might say, place the pen or put the pen on the table, put the frog on the chair, etc., or under the table. So the candidate will need to listen carefully and follow instructions to demonstrate that they are able to react and interact. And you can adapt this task in your class using a number of things. Also, when we look at movers, for example, we have a more challenging task, which is telling a story. One thing nowadays is that the story comes with a title. We already know who the character is because one name is provided. And it's important that when the candidate tells the story, they include all the pictures when they are narrating the story. And this kind of task also appears in A2 flyers, but with one difference, which is more images. So there is one extra image and there are two characters instead of one. So the learner needs to be able to tell a story and sequence facts using a number of things already, like linking devices, basic linking devices, when they are describing the facts. The other thing as well that they have in flyers is this interactive task, which is an information gap activity where they need to interact with the examiner by asking questions and answering questions based on the prompt, as you can see here. So this can be easily replicated in class, and you can make use of the sample tests to practice with this. Right, so speaking in a nutshell, involves things like naming and describing people, objects, and animals in a simple way. It involves telling stories based on pictures, so the more you practice in class, the better. It involves asking questions about everyday issues, and asking questions can be quite challenging for learners because depending on the mother tongue, they may or may not need to include auxiliary verbs when they ask questions. So in languages where you don't need auxiliary verbs, like my mother tongue, Portuguese, we just change the intonation, but we don't add extra elements. In English, we have a challenge of adding auxiliary verbs or inversion, which is something that we need to develop a lot with learners. So we might need to consider this when teaching learners to ask questions. So they need to describe situations in the present or in the past, depending on the exam. Flyers, for example, they need to be able to use the past simple. And they are assessed in those points in the criteria, which includes vocabulary and grammar. So vocabulary and grammar, they need to show variety of language, cohesion, pronunciation. They need to be able to pronounce the words, the sounds of the letters of the words carefully and clearly. They need to be able to use word stress and use intonation to demonstrate that they are asking a question and not stating something. And of course, elements of interaction, which includes understanding and responding to instructions, whether or not there will be a need for support or for more or less support from the examiner, and fluency and speed. So the more autonomous the candidate is in the speaking component, the better for the candidate, right? So practicing all those things in class, we did a little bit of practice with teacher says, which includes speaking and listening, because learners could also create their commands to practice in pairs or groups. And we have a number of resources available for teachers. So all those points in the criteria that I have summarized for speaking, for writing, for listening and reading, they can be found in the handbooks for teachers, which you can download from the website. And it's also important to use the two resources together, the handbook for teachers and the booklet with sample papers, which will be a great asset for you to be able to understand the criteria, understand the marking, and of course, familiarize yourselves and your learners with the tasks in the exam. But we also have a number of extra resources for the classroom. We have, for example, the word lists that are grouped, words that are grouped according to level and exam. But it's not only about the words, it's about also topics which are expected in starters, movers, and flyers. So this is a great document to look at. We also have the booklet with a number of classroom activities. I have used some of the activities here, right? But you also have access to more classroom activities. And we have, and this is one of my favorite resources on the website, we have the word list picture books for each of the exams. And those word lists bring those picture books. They bring wonderful posters in PDF format for you to download, and you can practice the language in the word lists with a number of images and fun activities in the word list picture books. You have one picture book for each exam and each picture book with a number of activities. We also have the classroom posters that you can download. We have two big posters for each exam. This is one example of a poster for A1 movers. And those posters, they are big. You have specific language for the level, and you can play with those posters in a number of ways because together with the posters, you also have the booklet of activities for those posters, and all of those resources can be downloaded from the website. So this is another example of a poster for A2 flyers. Then you can play practice with memory game, Kim's game, um, pointing, etc. There are many things that you can do with the posters, lots of ideas and visual ideas. And of course, those posters can also be used with Kahoot games that have been devised by Cambridge Assessment English for the teachers to use with their learners, whether you are teaching face-to-face or remotely. I mean, many teachers are familiarized with Kahoot games at the moment. They have become very, very popular in remote teaching. So we have three different Kahoot games for each of the exams, and each Kahoot game is based on one of the images that you can find in the picture books or in the classroom posters. So they're really nice, fun. Each Kahoot game is about a theme appropriate for the level with specific language. Really fun to play with, nice to work and with them in the classroom. And you also have a great YouTube channel that you can access with the past webinars, which provide a number of ideas. I had, I must say, a very enriching experience listening to the webinars that were delivered to Russia by going to your YouTube channel. So highly recommended for more ideas. And I would like to know whether you have questions and how I can help you, if anything, with the questions that you have asked. I can see, Julia, that there are five questions here, and the questions have been answered. Do we have any more questions from the site?
Well, yes, there are some questions, and I've already answered some of them. So there was a question about special requirements, and I've shared a link to the website where we talk about special requirements for candidates. So it's possible for everybody to take Cambridge English exam and to receive an international certificate. Then there was a question about age. Can a child of any age take any YLE exam? No age limit. So yes, there is a recommendation. Well, actually here in Russia, children from 7 to 12 usually take these exams, but there are no restrictions. So a child aged 7 can take flyers, or at 12 they can take starters. Well, there are no restrictions, and I know that sometimes in this country, some candidates aged 13 can be registered for the exam in case their teachers or parents want them to take this exam first. That's okay. Exam center will not say no. No. There are just recommendations. You see that the task types are very they are adapted for these age for young learners, and we do understand that children aged 14 or 15, these exams will not be interesting for them because they are they are for young learners. And there is a
Yeah.
question about the recording of the webinar. This fantastic session, yes, we will share the recording next week. The recording of the whole conference, not only of this session.
Yeah, can I just say something about special requirements? You have shared the link, which
Yes.
has a lot of information, so I highly recommend going to the link that Julia shared. But we also have, very soon, we will have some teachers who have learners with dyslexia. So they will be useful as well, and you'll be able to download from the website. But Julia will be able to tell you more about this, and there will be webinars delivered on the topic as well.
Yes, these guides are already available on our website. I will copy the link to the chat box. So yes, children with special requirements, with dyslexia or some other health problems, they will be able to take Cambridge English qualifications, and we do some recommendations for you teachers how to work with these learners and how to help them prepare for Cambridge English qualifications. So the link will be in the chat box in a couple of seconds. Thank you, Alberto. Thank you for this detailed presentation. I see wonderful feedback in the chat box. Muito obrigado. Thank you for joining us from sunny Brazil. Thanks a lot.
It's quite sunny today, so thank you very much, everyone. It's a pleasure, and thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you, Julia, once again.
Thank you, Alberto. So I see that Anne Robinson has already joined us. Hello, Anne.
Hiya.
Welcome to our conference. So actually this is our second conference about teaching and assessing young learners. The first one took place last year, and it was really decided to repeat, and I see that there are lots of people and wonderful feedback, so welcome. And I'm uploading your slides. Dear friends, I'm absolutely sure that you already know our superstar, and if you are preparing learners for Cambridge English qualifications, I'm sure that you use these fantastic textbooks, Fun Skills, Fun for Starters, Movers and Flyers. And even if you're preparing for higher levels, there is a very there is a great exam booster for advanced, right? Yes?
Yes.
Great. Yes. So now let's talk about interacting. And well, is it possible with an exam practice task?
Yes, of course it is.
Thank you, Anne.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Hello and greetings from Spain, where I am. A bit of a foggy day here today, and we're 2 hours behind you over there in Russia. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to look at some exam tasks and share some ideas for interacting with them. And I hope the ideas will also be relevant for you, whatever course book you're teaching, and even, you know, not just with young learners, but with other age groups as well and other levels. So this is what I'm aiming to do. So I'm aiming to think about preparing young learners to do well in exams, not just, you know, the A2 movers and A2 flyers or A1 movers Cambridge exams, but also other exams. And encourage them to interact with the tasks that we give them, with the content that we're covering, and very importantly, with each other. So let's have some fun and learn now, and let's interact. So I'm going to start by looking at an exam practice task, and we're going to interact with it. To lead into this, I'm going to ask you a question. What's the girl doing? This girl in the photo, what's she doing? Okay, so she's taking photos. She's taking a photo of you, possibly. Yeah, she's taking a picture. Okay, so we can say a photo or a picture. Can you give me maybe another sentence about this girl that's not the sentence, yeah, she's taking a picture or she's taking a photo? Could you give me another sentence about this girl? Right, I like that one, Angelina. She's enjoying the activity. She's on holiday. She's enjoying her summer holidays. She's having fun. She's on vacation. Okay, so when you ask students and maybe show them a picture and ask them, what's the girl doing? What's the boy doing? Take it further, yeah? We've got the simple answer that we would get perhaps in the pre-A1 starters reading and writing part 5. What's the girl doing? And they would be given taking a, and they would have to write the word photo or picture. But we can always take it a bit further, yeah, and get them to imagine things, yeah. So we've got some wonderful things. She's having a whale of a time. She's hiding her face. She's having a lot of fun. She's holding a camera, exactly, Maria. She enjoys taking pictures, okay? So they're all things that we can interpret. We can add our own interpretation of this situation, okay? And put ourselves perhaps in her shoes, which is very, very important. Another question, what's she taking a photo of? So one of you at least typed into the chat box, she's taking a photo of me. Okay, but what do you think she's taking a photo of? We don't know really, but what do you think she might be taking a photo of, or who? Yeah, so Olga, you're saying her parents, of her family, of her mother, of the animals in a zoo. Okay, that's an interesting one. A photo of a dolphin. Okay, Augusta, why would you say she's taking a photo of a dolphin? What information? What is there in the picture that makes you think that? Okay, yeah, she's got water behind her, hasn't she? She could be at an aquarium, or she could be at the beach, and perhaps she's lucky enough to see some dolphins in the water. Okay, her hair is wet. Excellent. Yeah, so that also tells her, what does the fact that her hair is wet tell us? So Ina, yes, she's been swimming, hasn't she? Yeah, probably. Okay, we think she's been swimming, or perhaps she's just come to the beach or come out of her hotel room and she's just had a shower. Okay, there's no right answer here. Okay, so encourage your students to go beyond she's taking a photo of her parents, her family. Get them to use their imagination and take it further. Obviously, if we're training them to take the exam and they're going to answer these questions, then there will be a real answer, but very often there isn't. So encourage your students to use their imagination, to use their deduction skills, to interpret what they see. Okay, so you could add questions to the picture like I've done here to get them to use those deductive skills. So what's this? It's water. It looks like seawater, doesn't it, because of the color? If you look at her clothes, you get the impression it's quite warm or hot. How old do you think she is? Okay, again, we can interpret these things. Okay, sort of more or less maybe how broad her shoulders are, her hands, the size of them. Okay, makes me think that she's probably about 8, 9-year-old, 10 at the most. Do you think she's alone? If she's 8 or 9, probably not. Okay, so again, we can make these deductions from a very simple photograph of a girl taking a photo. Right, Julia, I'm not sure am I going to go out to the audio here, or would I have to do anything? I'm not 100% sure.
You just need to mute your mic. So
Right.
when you move your mouse, yes,
Okay.
to your image, yes, there is a special sign.
Here on the actual image, or there?
On your image, video, actually.
Right.
I can try to do it.
Yes, if you could actually.
Yes.
And I also want to go out of huge mode.
Okay, done. So, dear friends, I'm uploading the video, and when I start it, please let us know in the chat box that you can see the video and you can hear everything. Okay? Okay. Oops, sorry, that's my fault. Yes. What's wrong? No. Can you see the video? I click on play sign.
Track 31. Unit 10. Page 50. 1. Close your eyes and listen to the sounds. 1. 2.
Now you need to unmute your mic. So, can you see the sign in the lower part of the screen? Try to click on it. No? Yes. Oh no, we still cannot hear you. No.
Now?
Yes.
Right, okay. I had 4 settings, chose the wrong one. Okay. Right, so can we go back to the slides now, Julia? Great, okay. So you heard 2 different sounds there. What did you think that they were? Okay, from the 4 pictures. Yeah, we had, yeah. We had, first of all, some water, yeah. And we also had some birds, didn't we? Do you think the only birds we heard were the seagulls, these birds that we can see in the picture? Or do you think there were other birds there too? Seagulls only, okay. I thought there were 1 or 2 little chirpy birds there as well. So I thought I could hear mainly seagulls, but also some other birds too. Okay, so this is another thing that we can ask students to imagine, yeah? The girl in the picture, okay, she's taking the photograph. She's possibly taking it of her family, or it could be a dolphin. She might have, she's been swimming perhaps. She's enjoying herself at the beach. She's on holiday. Another thing we can get them to imagine is what the girl can hear. what the temperature's like, what you can feel, perhaps what you can smell, okay? Because very often when you're next to the sea, you can smell salt, can't you? There's a certain smell when you go to the seaside. So again, get them to put themselves in the situation and to imagine it. And hopefully, this will also encourage them when they're telling stories to be more imaginative and include elements like sounds and smells and how you feel and temperature into their writing and their speaking, for example, when they're telling stories. So this, which comes from Fun Skills Level 2, is an exam task, okay? It's an exam task that we get in pre-A1 starters. And what students have to do is they have to unjumble the letters and write words. Okay. Now, the first time you do this with young learners, it can be quite difficult for them to understand what they have to do. Yeah, so you have to explain, in my experience, you have to explain that I've taken the letters S-E-A, which spell C, and I've jumbled them in a different order to give them this exercise, this task. But for young learners, that can be quite challenging. Yeah, so you have to explain the logic. And I'm going to be a bit critical here, okay, because what I'm going to be doing, because perhaps you are using course books to prepare for the young learners, okay, I'm going to think about, does this meet exam specification? I'm not criticizing it, I'm just saying it's a fact. Okay, so we've got an example, great. We haven't got lines for the letters, okay, so in these pre-A1 starters test, they would have a line for each letter that they have to write. And in the starters test, as you can see in the example on the right, the words are organized from shortest word to longest word. Yeah, so we start with snake as an example, then we have duck, which has 4 letters. And the last word, chicken, you can see, is the longest word. So that's the way that they would get them in the pre-A1 starters test, okay? So there's nothing wrong with this, okay? But you can discuss it with students because it would reinforce the way that the task works on the test. Okay, so I've just quickly adapted that, okay? You could do this in the classroom, okay? So I've given them lines to write the letters on, okay? So you could say, number 2, write 4 lines. Number 3, write 4 lines. And I've covered up number 8, and my words are now in order of length, okay? So the last word, jellyfish, is the longest word, and I've got 1 example and 5 questions, just as I would have in the pre-A1 starters test. Okay, so I'm not saying it's rubbish, I'm not at all, but it's interesting, I think, to compare with, is it the same? Yes, great, it's exact exam practice, or maybe it isn't, okay? What's the difference? Because the format for the test is like this. Okay, so very quick pre-A1 starters exam task, okay, and how it was slightly different from the real exam. Okay, let's take another exam task. Okay, so in the young learners tests, we have lots of pictures used in the tests. And I love to work with the pictures. So I've given you 6 parts of a big picture. Again, it's the beach. But I've cut the picture up and I've put it into 9 parts. And here I'm showing you 6 parts of the picture. So look at the 6 parts and can you make 3 pairs of pictures? Yeah, so we need 2 parts to go together to make 3 pairs of parts of the picture. So which parts would you put together? Okay, we haven't got numbers. Perhaps, actually, if I did it again, I think I would do it again. Okay, so with this boy here in the middle, let's call that number 2. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this boy, number 2, which of the other pictures do you think goes with that picture? Yeah, this one, okay. Because we've got this clue, haven't we? We've got the line of his kite string, which shows us that it's his kite string, which are actually covered up with the title. Here, we've also got a match. We've got a pink castle, and we've also got it here. And then here we can see the top of this hat, can't we? So we could start building a picture. So I like to do these things with students like this to get, again, training them to use their deduction skills and their logic. Very often I might give one student or a group of students just one part of the picture and get them to think about which part of the picture is it. Would it be the top of the picture? Would it be the left, the right, the bottom, the middle? Why? Okay, getting them to use that logic and their visual skills. So you can see, yeah, that I've put together more or less 4 of those pieces in one part there, and we've got the boy and the kite. My next question for you, what can you see in a lot of repeated in this picture? So there is an animal that you can see several times in this picture. Which animal can you see? Okay, so I can see 2 fish. Yeah. Yes, we've got several jellyfishes in this, or jellyfish in this picture, haven't we? I'm going to show you the whole picture now. Okay, so I'll show you the whole picture. No, it's not the whole picture, sorry. I need to go forward one more slide. Okay, so this is the whole picture, and you can see there are several jellyfish, okay, in the picture. They're not octopuses, because octopus is on the A2 Flyers word list, and this picture is from pre-A1 starters, where we have jellyfish on the word list. How many jellyfish can you see in the picture? Yes, we can see 6, can't we? Okay, and where are the jellyfish? Okay, so to train students to think about this task in the exam, where they have to colour the different jellyfish in the picture, I would give them the complete list of prepositions of place from the pre-A1 starters word list and get them to try and make sentences using all those prepositions. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And you could give them post-its if you're in the classroom physically. Okay, you can give them each a post-it and maybe they can have their picture, or they could drag and drop it if you're online. So they can write their sentence, then they drag it across, or they put it on the picture in the classroom. And you could challenge them to try and use all the prepositions and try and cover the picture completely. Okay, so let's compare again this with the exam task. Okay, so we have an example. We've got a pink jellyfish behind the ship. It's not the same as the real test, because in the real test the picture is totally black and white except for the example. So we would only have the pink jellyfish behind the ship. That's the only thing that would be coloured. And in the test, they would have 7 jellyfish in the picture. They'd have 1 coloured as the example, the pink jellyfish, and they'd have 5 other jellyfish to colour, and there would be one extra jellyfish that they wouldn't have to colour in the listening test. We haven't got a seventh jellyfish. So again, look at that, talk about it with your students, and I'll help them realize exactly what they have to do in the test if they're going to take the test. Okay, another thing. These are the colors that they might have to use. I've put a cross through the colors pink and white. Can you tell me why have I crossed out pink and white for this picture? Yes, Nadicha, we've already got pink in the example. So, haha, logic, deduction. I'm not going to need my pink crayon. And white, why do I know that I don't have to use a white crayon? Okay, and the reason for that is we're coloring in the test on a black and white sheet. So you couldn't see white exactly. You couldn't see white if you colored on a white background. And it's not on the list of crayons or colors that we need on the day of the test. Okay, so again, train your students. They're not going to need the example color, and white is on the word list, but they won't need it for this task. Okay, another thing, okay, I like to do with listenings. Okay, so I've got my colors here. Okay, so I know I'm not going to use pink. I'm going to put that away, but I could need any of these 9 colors. So I get my students to get their colors ready, and I get them to say, I think I'm going to have to color the jellyfish blue, orange, green, yellow, purple, and red. Okay, they are my 5 colors that I think I'm going, oh, I've got 6, sorry, that I'm going to have to use for this activity. Okay, so I separate those 5 colors, and then when I come to listen, I say, great, number 1 is blue. Oh, when I get to the end, they didn't say orange and they didn't say green, but I did hear yellow and I did hear purple. So I got 3 of the 5 colors right. Okay, and you could in class see if any of the students can guess the 5 colors. Okay, so they don't color, they're just listening to the colors, identifying them. And I think especially at the start, if you're preparing for this, this task, it's a nice activity to do because it's very hands-on, okay, even if you're online. And this element of guessing, okay, predicting what you might hear. Okay, so that's listen and show the colors. Another thing is also sometimes they hear the listening first time and perhaps they identify blue, but then they don't identify which jellyfish they need to color. So my tip there is leave blue separate from the other colors, because when you listen a second time, you know you're going to need that pencil or that color, and you will have it ready. So as soon as you identify which one it is, then you've got it ready to color. Okay. And in this case, we haven't got a 7th jellyfish. So what I would do after they've done the exam task is get them to draw a jellyfish somewhere else in the picture and choose a different color that they haven't used or in the example or in the 5 questions. So draw a 7th jellyfish and color it a different color. Okay, so interacting with an exam task, taking it further. And then remember our sentences with our prepositions, they can add the colors to their sentences. Okay, so they've first of all noticed where the jellyfish are, they've written sentences, and now they add the colors to the sentences to describe their colored picture. Okay, right, so I'm going to keep moving. We're going to now look at another level. So this would be for A2 flyers, okay? And we're going to look at writing a story and interacting with this task. Okay, so I've got a photograph, or 4 photographs actually, on this slide, and they show some footprints. So let's go back to using our logic and deduction. And what do you think, or who do you think, or which animal do you think could have made these footprints? Okay, so yeah, perhaps C has to be some kind of bird, doesn't it? Perhaps. Perhaps a fox, yes, could be. Okay, right, okay, I'm obviously giving my students more time to do that, okay? Then, so I get you writing or saying lots of different animals, and then I'll show you the 4 animals and you match them to the footprints, okay? But first of all, I would open it up wider before I come to the choice of the 4 and just matching the 4. Okay, this is part of a story. So which animal do you think made these footprints? So perhaps a dinosaur, yes. Oh. And which adjectives, because adjectives are really great words to add to stories to make them more interesting. So which adjectives might you use, or could you use, to talk about these footprints? So they're enormous, aren't they? Which other of the words on the screen could you use? They're pretty unusual, aren't they? Yeah, but you wouldn't call them tiny, would you? And is there only one kind of animal or creature that's made footprints in this picture? And you could, yes, yeah, lovely. You could add other adjectives like strange or Alicia. I'm pronouncing your names very Spanish, by the way, because I have no idea most of the Russian pronunciation of your names, so I apologize if I'm not pronouncing them right. Okay, so again, we're showing them part of a picture, getting them to imagine, and then we're introducing the useful language that they could use. What about this boy? How's he feeling? Yeah, so he's pretty frightened, isn't he, or scared? Perhaps in the first picture, he's a bit more curious or surprised, but he's definitely looking pretty frightened, isn't he? In the second picture there, with his mouth sort of twisted. And what about here? What do you think here? Can you see my camera? Is he feeling scared or frightened here? Yeah, he's looking pretty pleased and excited here, isn't he? Something's definitely changed his expression here. Okay, so let's look at the story then. So we've got a boy and he goes for a walk. He's quite surprised because he finds some very strange, enormous footprints, well, pretty large. And as he continues, he finds some even more enormous footprints, and he's starting to feel quite frightened because these are probably dangerous animals. So, one thing to train your students to do is to think of a name for the story. Think of a name for the boy. So they're not just saying, one day a boy went for a walk. Okay, but we give the boy a name. So I've given this story Oliver's Exciting Birthday. So that's my name for the story. And you can see I've decided to call this boy Oliver. Okay, and which animals made the footprints? Were they real animals? No, they weren't, were they? They were some people, probably from his family, and it's probably his birthday. Okay, and it's a fancy dress party, exactly. So a lovely story. Okay, and this is the task for the last part of the A2 Flyers reading and writing. And I think we could write a lot more than 20 words, couldn't we? And quite interesting words if we use them. So in Fun Skills, we've used a lot of checklists, and I love checklists. Okay, so before students perhaps give in their written story for you to correct and look through, they can quickly check their own writing by using a checklist. So yeah, tick, tick, tick. I've checked it, and yes, my writing does that. And in the teacher's book, we've always tried to encourage positive, constructive criticism. Okay, so we'd get another student to look at the student's writing and to give positive feedback. Yeah, so that was great. Maybe next time, yeah, so maybe, I don't know, they haven't used adjectives. Maybe next time you could use more adjectives. Okay. And then to engage and interact with the exam task, I would extend the story. So choose Oliver's costume, yeah? And you could add an extra condition. The costume must be a creature that would leave footprints. So we haven't very got time now, but I would ask you, which costume would Oliver not wear because it has to make footprints? Okay, and the answer is a shark, okay, because a shark doesn't leave footprints, does it? Continue the story, yeah? What presents did Oliver get? What games did they play? What time did the party end? How many people were at the party? How many candles were on Oliver's cake? Okay, so continue the story. You've done the exam task. Let's take it further. Okay, so for interacting with exam tasks, what I'd encourage you to do is to think of activities, and I've tried to share some with you today, for using logic and critical thinking. So they can check, does this task meet the exam specifications? If it doesn't, what's the difference? Make deductions, guess, yeah? So guess which crayons you're going to use, for example, in the listening. Use checklists to check that you've done what you were supposed to do, and extend the stories, make it into a single picture. You can say, which other pictures could we bring in? Find a different similar picture of a boy in a forest going for a walk, and compare it. Okay, so extend things and compare them. So have we got any questions? I'm just going to click on the question box there, Julia. And I can see one there from Olga. Olga is asking, are movers supposed to know and use the past simple? Okay, right, two things. They should know it in the sense they need to be able to understand it. And there are two tasks in the reading and writing where they probably would be tested to a very limited extent on the past simple. And that would be the text where they have to put the words back in, and it's movers, they're normally given a mixture of perhaps infinitives and past simples, adjectives and nouns. So they might have to recognize past simple in that task. And then also the text where they've got the text and then they've got sentences which rephrase the information in the text. And again, if the original text's in the past simple, then they might have to write maybe one verb in the past simple in that exercise. In the speaking test, if they are familiar and feel confident using the past simple, they could tell the story in the A2 mover speaking test in the past simple, but there's no need for them to do that. They can do it in the present simple. Even at flyers, A2 flyers, they can also tell the story both in the writing and in the speaking. They could tell the story in the present using the present continuous. Thank you, Anne. But starters can do without the past. PS is past simple. Yes. The past simple. If you look at the handbook, it appears for the first time on the A1 movers grammar areas list. Yeah, so starters, they don't need to use it at all, and they wouldn't be tested on it. But sometimes in class, naturally, it would come up, and they might ask you, how do I say yesterday I go, and they really want to know, I went. You can teach it, okay, without going into any great detail. You can teach it as if it was a vocabulary item. Okay, Yulia, any other questions? Yes. I'll put that slide up there with my my email and my blog, where I try and share tips and ideas and suggestions. So if anybody's got any questions I haven't answered, or maybe doesn't want to answer, ask them in the chat box. You're welcome to email me. I'd be delighted. So.
Thank you, Anne. Now we see that exam preparation can be fun. Thank you for this interactive presentation, and dear friends, thank you for your active participation. That was really great. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Pablo. Can you hear me? Okay, great. I can see you. I can hear you. Welcome to our online conference, Teaching and Assessing Young Learners, Day 2. I noticed that somebody in the chat box mentioned that Cambridge Assessment English has wonderful resources, and I think that it's time to look at these resources, discuss them, and I'm uploading your slides. Just a second.
I'm really glad you have that idea, because that is exactly what I'm here to talk about. So absolutely, we would like to I will be talking about basically going through some of the resources. All of the resources that I'm going to mention are free, are available digitally through our website, and basically I will be showing you different sections and resources which are specific to young learners. So there are many more resources there. I will be focusing specifically on the ones for young learners, but anyone who is teaching teenagers, adults, or in any other context can go and explore on their own. And Julia, thank you so much for this invitation, because this is not my first time presenting for for teachers and our friends in Russia, and it is always a pleasure to be there online. I hope next year or sometime in the future, thanks to Sputnik V or whatever else, I can actually go there and be with you.
Pablo, you are always welcome. So.
Great. I would love to be able to take you up on that invitation. If that's okay, we can just dive into it. And the title of the presentation is Your New English Classroom, because Your New English Classroom is basically an idea or a concept, a metaphor that we are using to identify the context that many of us are in today. Last year was a major disruption. Most countries around the world saw schools cancelled, classes going online, and many things that we had been talking about for a really long time, like, yeah, we need to start using technology more, we need to start using, at some point we're going to start to blending our classrooms, going online for some, but we don't really like distance learning, blah, blah, blah. All of these things for many people in many countries became kind of an irrelevant question because all of a sudden schools shut down. I am from Argentina, and in Argentina, for instance, there were no face-to-face lessons between March and November of 2020. So it was kind of crazy, and schools are just going online, and schools are just beginning to come back to life, let's say, for the school year, which in my country is beginning now, is beginning actually this week. And schools are going through a massive transition where they will actually be teaching some days for some students face-to-face, some days for some students online. So maybe one group is going to go to school for 3 days and get online teaching for the other 2, or they're going for less hours. Classes are going to be split. It's going to be definitely very different. And this is going to be the case for many countries and many contexts around the world. So your new English classroom is basically the idea that we have to be prepared for pretty much anything. So for a combination of online teaching, classroom teaching in the classroom, classroom teaching where half your learners are in the classroom and half are on video conference, or where you are teaching half your classes face-to-face and half your classes online. So it's going to be different, and it is new. So your new English classroom. And your new English classroom is actually the name of a section on the Cambridge English website where you will find most of the resources that I will be talking about right now. Again, I will be focusing on the ones which are specific to young learners. But let's begin with a question to you. I would like you very quickly in the chat box to think about what an activity that I call 2 stars and a wish. So in 5 words or less, two stars, 2 things about teaching in 2020 and teaching right now that you think were positive, 2 things that you learned, 2 things that you think ran really well, that you're really happy about, and a wish, 1 thing that you wish you had done better, or that you could do better, or that you would like to improve on. 2 things that were positive about your teaching and learning experience in the past year, and 1 thing that you see as an area of improvement, something that you would like to know a little bit more about. So be very succinct, 5 words or less for each of these, 2 stars and a wish. Please put it in the chat box starting now. And let's see what comes in. I can almost hear you typing halfway across the world. Just while you're typing a little bit of information, I am right now calling from Buenos logging in from Buenos Aires. It is actually morning here, and we are in the middle of summer. So today is 30 degrees. That's why I'm wearing short sleeves. I know that is very different from the time of day that it is for you and the time of year that it is for you. So we are already getting some things. Ivan says that a positive thing was improved IT knowledge. Definitely. This was the year where we had to up our digital game, where we had to up our IT game, and that is a really, really good thing. So definitely lots of teachers who were saying, yeah, I have to learn a little bit more about how to use computers. Now you have to do it. And the great thing is that when a teacher needs to do something, we do it. No excuses, no ifs, no buts. Galina, I have tried new methods of teaching. Definitely, we have all explored, we have all gone way beyond our comfort zones, way beyond the things that we were used to, and we had to start doing things that we didn't think we would, and doing things that we hadn't done until then, and that is always a great thing. Olga, new skills, I need more imagination. Definitely, we have to use new skills, and that forced us to be very creative, to reinvent the way we do things, and to find the thing that I love about talking to many teachers and looking at many sort of different contexts and situations was the thing that I love is that it really made us rethink and re-explore what are the things that we really want to do, what are the things that really work. If we have to start changing things and going down to basics, what are the basics, what are the foundations that we believe are successful for us and for our learners? And that is a very good exercise of reflection. Julia, I would like to improve online teaching using different tools, making lessons interactive. Great, you're in the right session. We will be talking about that in a minute. More options online and offline, says Anna. Absolutely, options is the name of the game. Online classes are good for interactive board games. Definitely, lots of tools that we have explored, lots of different resources. I have damaged my sight, says Galina. Good. I have had to change my glasses last year. So yes, I see where you're going. We're spending a lot more time in front of screens. So item number 1 on the list, health and safety. Make sure that you have the right light, that you have the right screen, that you have the right setting to be as comfortable as possible, as healthy as possible. New experience, new learning resources, says Ina. I missed my students at the beginning. It was so stressful. I think we all share that. I think definitely all around the world, missing the classroom. We never thought, I mean, we know we love the classroom, that the classroom is the place where we feel happiest, but we never knew that we would miss it so much, right? Zoom gave a lot of chances to share knowledge. Irina, absolutely. Anna, you can choose how to teach and how to learn. Definitely. Choice and choices in how to do it, and options open. That's a great way of looking at it. I studied IT tools. Online classes are good for people in remote areas. Absolutely. It is one thing that has been really positive is that we have had a lot more exposure and experience of learning online and via video conference, etc., webinars, etc., and that has given us access to a lot more opportunities. That is absolutely true. Started teaching online, the dependence on the internet. Suddenly our internet provider became our most important educational partner, and we never thought that would be the case. I never used so much time with online education, says Galina. Absolutely. New resources, new tools, the lack of live communication. It's not always possible. It is not always the best solution. The lack of hugs with my pupils. Isn't that right? Don't you just want to hold on to people, to be in touch with people, to be in a classroom and sort of, well, I don't want to say touch kids because that is always a risky proposition, but the physical contact, being there, the bodies, the presence that you have, that is definitely something we as teachers probably miss a lot. IT skills, online teaching, wish, always have an opportunity to teach offline. Julia, I see where you're going. Yes, well, online teaching is here to stay, and for many people it's going to be a great opportunity. It's going to be something that we want to take up. For many of our learners, it has been fantastic. It has opened opportunities for many people to start learning that wouldn't have been able to because they live too far, because they don't have the time, and many people will probably stick with it. Many people will definitely come back to classrooms, and many teachers are going to just jump back into classrooms and hope never to touch on a computer again. Absolutely. Galina, some people don't like hugs. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's why I said probably not hugging, but just sort of the idea of the kind of interaction that you have when you are in a room with somebody is different, good for some things. Other people prefer it different ways, and it's great that we have more options for that too. But let's start talking about resources specifically. So I told you that we were going to look at your new English classroom, which is a section on the Cambridge English website, and many other resources that you can find in there. Julia has posted the link on the chat box a couple of minutes ago. This is where you can find it. If you go to the cambridgeenglish.org website, you will see this big purple banner. It's actually the first thing you will see: supporting schools, explore our range of resources, and that banner is going to lead you directly into this section where we have put together most of the resources, many of the resources that we have produced for teachers, and also all of the resources that are about teaching online and teaching in this new context. So the resources are divided into areas, into sections, and these are the areas that they are divided in: the socially distanced classroom, emotional support for learners, going back to the classroom, understanding learners' levels, and teaching English online. We are going to look at them and focus on them one by one, and we're going to start with the socially distanced classroom. So this is where you will find resources for mixed classrooms of some kind. If you're going back to face-to-face teaching but have less students in the classroom, or are doing some kind of hybrid teaching where some of the students are face-to-face, some of the students are online, etc. This is what we refer to by the socially distanced classroom, this new reality, this new normal that we will be coming back to. So one of the things that we have produced for the socially distanced classroom is a number of classroom activities. So I am showing you here activities for key and preliminary. This is not specifically for young learners, but if you're teaching young learners at the upper end of the skills range, and if you're training learners, for instance, for flyers, and if your learners are something like 11 or 12 years old, the upper range of primary schools, then the level of language that you're working at, the vocabulary, etc. And if your learners are maybe 11, 12, in that kind of in-between, some of the activities which are suggested for school learners at similar language competence levels like A2 will fit. So some of the activities in these booklets will be, especially in the one for A2P for schools. If you're in that context, if you're working with 9 or 10-year-olds, then this is probably, you will not find a lot here. And if you're working with kids who are 6 or 7, I would suggest don't even look at this. The language is going to be too complex, the vocabulary is going to be different from the one that you need. But these handbooks, which suggest lots of great classroom activities that you can do online and offline, are going to help a lot. Now, one thing that we have produced, which is specifically for, in this case, for key, but which you can definitely use with young learners are the classroom posters and activities. So these are posters that you can download from the website, that you can use as a digital poster, or that you can print, or if Yulia and the people in our Russia office have the option, perhaps you can get from them, or you can have printed in color at your local school, at your school, and just put up on the wall if you have a classroom with walls and everything. And these are based on the word books, not for starters, movers, flyers, but for A2 key for schools. So some of the areas, some of the things are not going to be relevant, but as you can see, the vocabulary areas around food, our planet, and sport are basically overlap and are things that you would be, if you're working with 10, 11, 12-year-olds, definitely things that your learners are going to be interested in. And our planet has lots of very useful and is a very useful language. So the simplest thing you can do is just put them up on the wall so that learners become familiar with the vocabulary and they have the curiosity to explore them. But that is not enough, which is why we have produced activity packs for each of these posters. And here are the posters for level B1 if you're working with more advanced learners. But as you can see, space, technology, travel, the subjects or the topics of the posters and the vocabulary in the posters becomes a little more grown up, a little more elaborate, and may not be the best for most young learners. But the things I was showing you up in the A2 key work just fine. But let's have a quick look at these classroom activity booklets that you can find here. And you have one for the A2 key posters and another one for the B1 preliminary posters. What you will find in there are activities for a collection of activities for each of those posters. And those activities have two great things. Number one, as you can see on the left, you have activities that you can do you have a variation of the activity, of each activity that you can do face-to-face. So if you are in the classroom and you like this activity, this is how you would do it face-to-face. And on the right, you have the same activity, but translated to online teaching. So if you are teaching online and you like this activity, this is how you would do it online. And the other great thing is at the bottom of each activity, you have three suggestions: support, extend, and adapt. And this is to support multi-level classrooms, and this is to support our learner diversity and the idea that every learner is at a different place. So support is for learners who are struggling with the activity. These are suggestions for how you can help them reach that level. Extend is for learners who are actually find the activity too easy or the early finishers, and these are activities that you can use to extend, to give extra activities or more things to do to make it a little bit more challenging. And adapt is things that you would do if you have learners with special education needs and ways in which you can adapt some of these activities for different settings. So you have online and offline activities, a bunch of activities for each of the posters, both digital and both digital and sort of concrete paper posters on the wall. And you have the support, extend, and adapt, which are great to manage our multi-level classrooms. And multi-level has always been an issue, but nowadays more than ever is definitely the name of the game. And as you can see here, we have another example of another activity, this time from the B1, which again, if you're working with young learners, you may not find as useful as the A2 key, but definitely helpful. Now, the next section in your new English classroom is emotional support for learners, and this is universal. as you were saying before, we all miss the classroom, we all miss our students, but the disruption to our lives has been massive. And the disruption to our class routines, and sort of there are lots of issues around emotional well-being, and as we are going back to schools, there are lots of issues that come up. So in the emotional support, you will find guides on and blog posts and materials on emotional support for learners and how to support our learners' emotional and psychological well-being. From our place as teachers, no one is saying that we are going to become psychologists or therapists of any kind, but from our role, what we can do to support them. And you will find things like these classroom activity booklets with which include emotional support, questions, activities that you can do, conversation starters, and answers to questions like, how can I motivate my students after disruption to their learning? My students with special educational needs, how can I help them particularly? How to cope with the issues of confidence and motivation. So working at different age ranges, there are activities for primary, lower secondary, upper secondary. So primary is your friend, lower secondary for the upper range can help you. You will find exercises to address these areas. We are not just teaching brains, we are teaching people, and people tend to have feelings. So we need to cater for those as well. Going back to the classroom is the next area, and this is about managing, and in this area you will find resources to assist you with managing the blended learning context, the challenges of teaching this kind of online, offline, and we still have a Teaching English Online section at the very bottom, where we talk specifically about the more of the online teaching specific issues. But this is where you will find resources such as lesson plans. Yes, we have always offered lesson plans in our website and as part of our resource collection. And these lesson plans, as you can see, cover all of the range of Cambridge English exams, from pre-A1 starters to C1 advanced. We don't have lesson plans for C2 proficiency on this list, but you will definitely find them on the website if you are teaching proficiency. And these lesson plans are lesson plans which were produced in 2020, specifically to offer you options for delivering the lesson plan online and offline. So you have online variations of the activities, but they also work if you're doing them face-to-face in the classroom. Here I am showing you the range. I chose A1 movers, but I'm just showing you the range of lesson plans that you can find. Again, these are just the lesson plans which are specific for online, offline teaching. And each lesson plan is extremely complete. You have a full lesson that you can even extend into more time. It can very easily fill up one class or even one lesson, or perhaps even two. And you will find for movers, for instance, in online teaching, listening, you will find a number of activities that will cover all of the different sub-skills and areas of reading and writing. You will find specific speaking activities. So if you're working on exam preparation, this is going to cover the whole range of the content of the exam. It's going to give you great ideas. These are going to work online. It's going to give you tons of resources. If you're working with listening, you will have all of the audios. It's just a bunch of things which are ready-made. The greatest thing about this is it's a PDF. You open it, you look at it, you adapt it, and you just teach. Isn't that cool? Now, the next thing you will find in this, going back to the classroom, is a number of resources. My friend Alberto mentioned some of those in his presentation about an hour ago. So these resources include resources which already existed on the Learning English section of the Cambridge English website, which you will find in the Learning English section. You will find links to the games and apps by Cambridge Assessment, including things like Quiz Your English, which young learners love because it is a kind of, it is a quiz game about language which comes at different levels, so you can work with the basic levels of language for your young learners. But it's quick, it's fast, it is a competition, you score points, super fun. You will find links to the digital teacher, and of course, as Alberto mentioned earlier, you have links to the Kahoots that we have produced specifically for young learners, and which are actually divided by each of our exam levels. Alberto mentioned them earlier and showed you some of the examples, and actually by now I don't think any language teacher anywhere in the world needs an explanation of what a Kahoot is and how to use it. But if you go to the Kahoot, you will find links to the activities, which are divided by pre-A1, A1, A2, and you will have different situations which are based on images and activities which are similar to what you will find in the exams, which is based on exam preparation content. And you can do them as competitions, or you can do them as Kahoot challenges, so as learner challenges. So it is there, you have all the options on how to use it, and these are just super easy to integrate into your face-to-face classrooms if your learners have tablets or mobile phones or computers that they can play Kahoot on in the classroom. Or of course, you can do them online, and you can even set them as homework. And then you have other resources that can be used online or in the classroom, like I was mentioning earlier, the Learning English activities, the apps, and all of our resources on the digital teacher, which is a section which is for teacher development on digital skills, but will basically give you tons of resources, ideas, and reviews of resources and information about things like teaching with IT and teaching online. So super useful and extremely necessary for those of you who, as you were saying at the beginning, if you would like to feel a little bit more confident or feel that you have a little bit more resources available to teach online, to teach with a computer, this is the best place to go. Now, the next section. Any questions so far, by the way? I see a lot of thank yous and appreciation of some of these resources in the chat box. I'm very, very grateful for that. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box and I will try to cover them as I go along. The next section is about understanding learners' levels and working with mixed ability classes. And this is a challenge that we always have. Mixed ability classes, we work with them all the time. We focus on that because it is a reality. When we are teaching a class of 20, 25, or however many students you have, you are not teaching one class, you are teaching 20 individuals. You're teaching 25 individuals. Each of those individuals has a different range of attitudes, aptitudes, and skills and knowledge. They bring different things to the classroom, and they have different learning trajectories, and each of them is at a different way, at a different point in their trajectory. Some are a little more advanced, some struggle to keep up. Some have great facility, sort of they catch on very quickly with things like learning new vocabulary, and others don't really have a lot of strategies to help them with that. Some are great at writing, some struggle with writing, but are really, really good at speaking. Others do not find speaking very stressful, but are super good listeners or readers. So each of us has a different thing. So adapting to that variation to that and offering differentiated activities and offering activities with options has always been a challenge. The additional challenge as we go back to teaching is that, yes, absolutely, Nadezhda, all classes are mixed ability classes. There is no such thing as a class. It's people who learn together, and they learn a lot from each other. And learning in a group is definitely sort of has lots of advantages over learning things individually, especially in language. But the additional challenge that we have now is that because in many places, many of you have had to start teaching online, and learners have different opportunities for accessing online learning, depending on their access to IT, on their internet connectivity, etc., etc. And because we have changed the context, and some learners have adapted really well to online teaching, others just couldn't do it. Some teachers have adapted really well, some teachers couldn't do it. Some institutions were very quick to pick up, others not so much. So because everything changed, we are going to start, as we go back to the new normal, now more than ever, every class is even more mixed than before, and getting information about where our learners are in their learning trajectories is more important now than ever. So, and this is where Cambridge English comes in, is that we offer a sequence, we offer what we call a step-by-step approach, kind of ladder of competence, and exams can be great milestones. Being able to select based on the level where you feel your learners are, being able to use an exam, which can be anything from pre-A1 starters all the way up to C2 proficiency, but sort of wherever your learners are, just having a deep dive into that particular level, the skills and competencies and knowledge of that level, and do my learners have it, is very useful information right now. But we need to make sure that we are signing up our learners for a challenge that they can handle. So what tools can we use for that? The tools on our exam preparation page, and this is available through our Learning English website, are always there and are now more important than ever. These are tools that were always there, but this is a good place to find them all together. So you can see all of our exams lined up here. As you click on each button, you will find for each of those exams all of the resources that we offer. And these include sample tests, so mock exams that you can use. So both paper-based, if you want to print them as it's a PDF, you can print it, and computer-based. If your learners will be doing their exam on screen, you have a computer-based exam that you can actually do on the website that is going to show you exactly what you're going to find on the day of the exam on screen. You have links to the practice activities, many of them we were talking about right now, but there is much, much more on our website, and this is one place where you can find it sort of all together. You have, if you are teaching starters, movers, flyers, and then if you're teaching key and preliminary, these exams have vocabulary lists, and you can find the vocabulary lists here. You have the information for candidates. You have guides for candidates and their parents. So maybe a young learner is not going to ask a lot of questions about the test, but the parent of a young learner is definitely going to ask a lot of questions. And the guides for candidates will help you with that. You have games, you have social media activities, and you have links to our official Cambridge English preparation materials, the materials that we prepare together with our friends and with our brothers and sisters at Cambridge University Press, like the great exam series we were learning about just now from Anne Robinson, which are the best exam preparation materials you can find out there. Now, also, you will find a section on managing learning gaps with tips for understanding learner levels, and lots of tools there on how to identify learning gaps, identify those areas of improvement, so which includes sample tests, but also advice on one-to-one sessions and what we call confidence check tools that you can use to spot the areas that where our learners are feel more or less confident, and that can sort of give you indications of where to go, where to start supporting them and scaffolding them more. And you will have mixed ability activities, the adapt, extend format I was showing you earlier, which we have incorporated into all of our activities, and lots of suggestions about that. And you will find guides on how to work with fast and meaningful feedback. And finally, we have the Teaching English Online section. And in the Teaching English Online section, you can find blog posts and tips and advice on how to teach online. And you can find the lesson plans for online teaching. I was mentioning them earlier. This is an example of what some of those plans look like. So you have the procedure, and then you have the online options. And again, because technology realities change, you usually have a number of options to choose from, depending on the IT skills of your learners, what things you feel comfortable with, and what things you feel are actually going to work in your particular online teaching setting. And if you're working with starters, movers, flyers, if you're preparing for exam, this is a great resource to share with your learners, which is, and for you to have, which is the exam preparation posters, the digital posters. And what this is, let me show you in a little bit more detail. If we're looking here at the one for movers. And each of the things that you see here, if you download the PDF in our supporting teachers section, you will actually be a link. So you can click on each of the bullet points and each of the ticks that you see here, and it will take you to a new resource. This is a great sort of one-stop shop. This is like a summary of all the things that we offer for that level. And it is going to include an exam preparation checklist, so things that you need to have for the exam. It is going to include the handbook for teachers, which is essential. It is going to include our sample tests. It is going to include a link to the videos of the interviews. It is going to include the links to the lesson plans. Then you will have another section with the activities for children to try at home. So you have all of the practice activities that kids can do with their families, that they can do at home, that you can set for homework, that you can offer as extensions to the class, that you can do in the class. You have a section on support for parents. It is in English, but it offers you loads of information about that parents can use to help their kids learn English, activities that they can do. There is an activity booklet for parents on how to help their kids learn English, which is just amazing. And lots of advice there, because we tend to, parents are there and they are always there in the learning process. They can be our allies or they can be a barrier. This is going to help them. This is going to help you make them your allies. You have support for general English teaching, so you have other resources, and you have, in this case, because we're working with movers, you have the links to Sing and Learn, which are videos and digital activities, and an app that you can use to use songs. So all of these things in one place, and these posters are available for all of our exams. I showed you the ones for our young learners, because that's what we are talking about today. So you can see here the ones for starters, movers, flyers, but in the website, you can find them for all of the levels. If you are teaching key, preliminary, first, etc., they are all there. And time is running out. We have a few minutes left. So but there is one thing that I want to show you, which is going to make you love me. I promise you that. So one thing that we have here, of course, is tips for teaching online classes, and this gives you access to blog posts, more advice. We have done lots of webinars during 2020, which you can find on our YouTube channel, and you can find the links here. and you have loads of information about teaching online. But let me share with you, let me see how good this works. I want to share my screen and show you a great resource. Matías, te callas. So, and this resource is called Weekly. What is Weekly? You can find Weekly at weekly.cambridgeenglish.org. And Weekly is everything you need to plan lessons. So what are you going to do here? It's going to ask you 3 simple questions. It's going to ask you to choose an exam. So let's say, oh, I'm training students for flyers. It is going to ask you how much time you have between now and the day of the exam. So let's say that I'm going to do my exam in 3 months. So I have 12 weeks to go. Now, how much time do I want to spend each day, each week, on exam preparation? Because I teach a number of hours, but of course I am not going to spend 3 months preparing my students for the exam. But I can definitely, if I'm teaching, let's say 5 hours a week, maybe I can do 1 hour a week of exam preparation activities specifically with young learners. 1 hour feels about right. This is going to, then I click on Build My Plan. And look at what I have here. How cool is this? I have a 12-week plan, which includes all of the information all of the resources that I need to train my learners for this level. And it includes activities for different skills. It includes sample papers. It includes and if I go into each week, I want to show you what kind of things we can find. You will find a link here, for instance, on week 4 to the word list picture book. And it is going to give me suggestions on how to do it. And it is actually going to give me some options on how to do that. So I just download the document and I have a lot of activities. Now I want to go to another week. Let's look at week 10. We're getting closer to the exam, so I want to go to week 10. And on week 10, where is that? Sorry, let me go back to my, and I have an option to add weekly notes, but basically, I want to, let's say that we try week 7 here. And on week 7, for instance, it is going to suggest working with these flashcards. So I can just download my flashcards, and it is telling me that in this download you will find flashcards based around 10 themes and a variety of activities. And I have that for every one of 12 weeks. I have a 12-week plan for exam preparation, and all I had to do was answer 3 questions and click on a link. And I actually have that option for every Cambridge exam, all the way from starters to B2 first for schools. Just a couple of clicks, and you have a plan for exam preparation with the link to all of the online activities, and everything is free and everything is available on the website. How much do you like that? Exam preparation planning in 4 clicks. Doesn't get better than that. So there is one more resource that I just wanted to mention, but we are definitely not going to cover because it is not young learner specific, which is Write and Improve on writeandimprove.com. But that is for writing for more advanced learners or for older learners. So definitely go to writeandimprove.com, check it out. It is a great tool, but we can talk about that some other day. So those are the resources that I wanted to share with you, and we are getting close to the end of our timeline. So we're getting to the end of our time slot. So if you have any questions, or if you would like me to go back to any of the things I mentioned, expand a little bit more on any of them, please type your questions in the chat box. Julia, I don't know if you've spotted anything that we would like to cover that we can go back to. I see a lot of thank yous, so you're very, very welcome. Lots of information, so much information. Thank you, superb. Oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pablo. I cannot see any questions. I just wanted to ask you to share information about one more resource for teachers, our online course, Teaching English Online, because I've mentioned that some people said that it's important to improve their professional skills. Yes, and I'm happy to share the link to our free online course.
Exactly. There is the Teaching English Online MOOC, which has been extremely successful. It is a great course. It is available through the Future Learn platform. It is free to do. If you want to get a certificate, there is a small fee, and then you get a certificate from Future Learn and Cambridge Assessment once you have completed it. It covers very practical, very concrete things in the course of 6 weeks. Covering general concepts around online teaching, and then weekly spots, which are just amazing on how to teach different skills. So a super deep dive into how to work with writing, listening, speaking, and reading when you're teaching online. Extremely practical, with videos, with links to resources, with amazing activities on the forum. It is just fantastic. And there is a course running now, so you can still sign up and catch up with the course, but they also open up regularly. So go to Future Learn and sign up and find out if you want to join the course that is ongoing right now, and if not, go find out when it starts again. So, but it opens about every 6 to 8 weeks. So if you do not join the one that is open now, there is definitely going to be another one sort of next. And it is a great course. I really, really recommend it. Thank you for reminding me of that, Julia.
Thank you, Pablo. That was a great introduction of all our resources. So one of our objectives is to provide teacher with some proper support, and especially during this period of uncertainty, we understood that that's really challenging for teachers to start teaching online, and that there was some kind of lack of resources, and we created everything for you. All these materials and resources are free, and this is some ready-to-use solution. So please visit our website and use all these materials. Thank you very much, Pablo. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for your time, for joining us today. Until next time.
So let's move to the final session of our conference, and let's talk about writing. I'm happy to introduce Artyom Morozov. Hi. Hello.
Hello. Nice
welcome.
to see you.
Welcome to our conference. I'm uploading your presentation.
Okay.
That's not the first slide, right?
No, it's not. It's okay.
Okay, this one.
No. Yeah, this one. Yeah, this is the first one.
This
yeah,
one, top tips for writing.
Yes.
Okay, great. Artyom, thank you for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you.
We are happy, we are ready to listen to your ideas. You're so experienced, and I'm sure that you can share some wonderful ideas and activities, how to work with young learners, and how to make their lessons more interesting and interactive. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really excited, and I'm happy to be here. Distinguished colleagues, honorable guests of this conference. If you can hear me well, please do let me know in the comment section. Say, hello, Artyom, nice to see you. Or you can send me a smiley or a plus. Yes, I can see a lot of pluses and smileys. This is amazing how many people can come together thanks to technologies, right? All these online webinars, online conferences, online lessons. We are living in a truly new epoch. Yes, I can see a lot of smileys and pluses. Hello, guys. Hello, hello. We are living in a truly unique period of history, truly unique epoch of teaching, I would even say. And it's even more important to speak about writing now, and I can prove why. Well, if you guys did write at least something with a pen and a piece of paper, say in the last 6 months, please write a plus in the comment section. Say something. Yes, yes, we did write something. Or no, minus. Well, I can see pluses. Okay, I can see quite a lot of pluses, to be truly honest. I did not expect that. Well, you know, okay, we are teachers. Yeah, I see so many pluses. Oh my goodness. Okay, we are teachers. We tend to do things that normal people do not do, all right? But let's face it, our children, at least, they do not write much. They type now. They type. They do not write. And most exams, I would say all exams, include at least one section on writing. So we have to, maybe we must do something to help them cope with these difficulties and to practice writing. What can we do to take our children from phonics to writing essays and stories? Well, there are quite a lot of things, to be truly honest. First of all, this is one of my favorite things. I do this all the time. When my students come in September, I ask parents to go to any local stationery shop and buy this notebook. They're usually cheaper than $50, I think. And they bring those notebooks to my lessons, and every student takes a pen and writes a name on this notebook. Then I collect these notebooks and I write a simple question, level appropriate question. It can be one question to every student, or you can come up with different questions to every student. I'm usually lazy, so I have just one question to everyone. It's like, it can be as simple as, how are you today? What's your name? Right? This is something simple. Next lesson, I distribute the notebooks and they take them home. Their homework is to read my question, write an answer, and bring their homework back, the notebook back. Take the notebook, answer their question, and come up with my next question, and so on. Usually they ask me some silly questions like, how old are you? Are you married? That's okay, I don't mind that. I usually answer all this, and I come up with my own question. And at first you'll have to push your students a little bit, because this is not really what they're used to doing. But then at some point you will realize that they're actually looking forward to your answers, and you have managed to establish a kind of a secret communication channel between you and your students. And sometimes they would even write things that they would not normally say orally to you, but they can write those things there in this secret diary. That's why we call it a secret diary. Well, yeah, that's a lot of extra work, but it is really worth it, I promise. So this is one way to inject more writing into your daily routine. What else can you do? Well, this is one more thing I love doing, is a message on the board. So I write a big question on the board. It can be something simple like, how are you today? Or what's your favorite vegetable, or what are you wearing today? And they take a sticker and write their answer on the sticker and stick it to the board. And we have these messages on the board. Awesome, right? Well, this is not the best part of it, because you can later, of course, you can make your questions more sophisticated, and gradually they would require more and more writing. So not just one word, can be 3, 4, a sentence, a small text. Yeah, write 3 things you like and 3 things you hate, and so on. Describe yourself in 1 word for high-level students, perhaps. You can organize it. You can organize a kind of chat between 2 classes. If one group writes a question on the board, but they do not answer this question, the second group, the one that comes next, will have to answer this question with those stickers. And then group A will be able to read the answers, and they will receive a question from group B too. This will be a kind of communication between 2 classes, which is great, isn't it? Yes. What else can you do? So you make writing an integral part of your teaching routine, and take it easy. Small is beautiful. Small steps. Your home assignment shouldn't be huge, right? At first, 5 minutes is enough. 5 minutes, you know, it's always depressing to know that you have to sweat over this piece of writing, over this piece of paper for hours to please your favorite teacher. This is kind of depressing, right? So that's why it's always better to know that this torture will end soon. And this is the first piece of advice I give to the parents of my students. Say to your kid that it's going to take just 5 minutes, and they can even use a timer on their phone. Start a timer, and it will be like going 5, 4:59, 4:58. You will have to be writing for only 5 minutes, and then it's over. You can go play computer games or do whatever you want. In 5 minutes, this will be over, unless you want to continue. And usually, you know, usually they want to continue, but it doesn't matter. 5 minutes. If you don't want to, you can go and play computer games. And next time it will be 6 minutes, then 7 minutes, then 10 minutes. Then gradually it will be half an hour, 40 minutes, normal writing time. So take it easy. First small and bigger, gradually. And dictations. Dictations can help a lot. Once I realized that my junior teenagers can talk about anything in the class, they can discuss anything, but when I ask them to write something, they can't produce anything at all, like at all. Even 1 word is difficult. And I didn't know why it was, but kids also have the same problem. I decided to ask them to use their phones to record themselves while they were talking. So they basically discussed something and recorded themselves. And then when they came home, they listened to their own voice and they copied exactly what they were saying. And they got an essay. It worked. And we decided to do it more often, and it really helped us to, you know, to jump into writing. Well, if your junior teenagers or young learners are struggling with writing, maybe you will want to try this hack. But I wasn't going to talk about this exactly. I was just going to say that dictations, copying something that somebody else said, can be a really powerful springboard for writing, because you don't have to produce anything yourself. You just copy something that somebody else did. And it can be as easy as this. You just take a text, you write it beforehand, and you just, in the past simple, and you just dictate it to your students and they listen and write it down. It sounds boring, right? That's why we don't do normal dictations. We usually do dictations like this, player dictations. For example, when I pretend to be a DVD player, so I have a text and I start reading this text, and there are these big giant buttons on the table or on the floor if I have a big classroom. And I start reading really slowly. To start reading, they need to press play. And I start reading very, very, very slowly. And at some point, one of the students is so irritated that he clicks this button, head button. And I start speaking faster, faster, faster. Then somebody else clicks it and I start speaking faster. Then I speak so quickly that one of the students is stressed out and he clicks pause. And I pause, I freeze like this until somebody clicks pause again. And then if they accidentally click stop, I will have to stop and I will not talk anymore. They will need to click play again to start me again. But the problem is that I will start from the very beginning of the text. So you see, this students accidentally or intentionally press wrong buttons, and this is a kind of a game. If they click the backwards button, I will read the text backwards, and well, this is funny. So you can try to do this, or you can try banana dictation. So you take a text from your course book and you erase some of the words from the course book, and when you read this, you will say a word, banana, for example, instead of those words. Your students listen to what you are saying and write everything down, but they will need to fill in the gaps with their own words, or they have to guess. My monster's name is, okay, my monster's name is banana. My monster's name is Serежа. Oh, okay, Serежа, good. He is very banana. He is very funny, good. And so on. So they basically copy what you are saying, but it's not exactly copying. They are creating a text with you. And then when you're done, they can read their texts out loud, and we can all have fun. And then you will read the original text from the course book and do some exercises in the course book. Yes, you can do that. Or shouting dictations. If you have a big group of at least 10 students, if you have a smaller group, you can also try this, but it's really fun when there are a lot of people doing this activity. So you divide your class in two teams. Team A standing by this wall, team B standing by this wall. Team A have got a text, a small text. They need to dictate this text to team B, and all students B will listen and write down. The problem is that they need to shout loudly as they can, and they will do this simultaneously. You can imagine how noisy it will be in the classroom. Of course, students B do not hear everything clearly, so they need to ask student A to repeat, and student A will have to repeat. And you know, this is a great reading activity because they will read this text again and again many times. And it's a great listening activity because you'll have to listen before you write, and they will write too. If you're not comfortable with this noise, try whispering dictations or quiet dictations. They will basically do the same, but they will whisper. And then they can exchange roles. Students B will dictate the text to students A. Yeah, Alexandra is saying that her colleagues will kill her. Yeah, so quiet dictations. Try quiet dictations. They are also fun. Or mirror dictations. So you take a text and you put it into some application like Paint or any application which can work with pictures, and you just mirror this text, and you will have something like this. You can print it and hand it out to your students, or you can show it on your computer screen, and the students will look at the text and they try to unscramble what's written there. What can I see? Yesterday I went to school. Oh, okay, I'm writing this down, and I'll write this down. And then when they're done, they can take a mirror and come to the original, to this piece, and check themselves if they made any mistakes or not. This is also kind of fun. Pictures are great. Pictures are great. Picture dictations are fantastic, especially if you're preparing your students for young learners exams. You can use the materials. This is speaking, right? I know, but you can use this for writing. So you take these materials, these pictures that are meant to be used for speaking, and you make them write about these pictures. So find the differences in writing. Awesome, right? Find the differences, or they can also find the similarities. We never do this. We always find the differences. Why don't we find similarities? For example, in picture 1, I can see a girl, and in picture B, I can see a girl too. Why not? Pictures. You can take a picture with many actions and people and animals and colors and something, and you show this picture to your students for some time. They look at it and try to memorize as much as they can. When the time is up, you turn off the picture like this. You can't see it right now, but I have some questions to you. Can you tell me in the chat, what color is the dog? What color is the dog? Black, green, orange. Can you type it in the comment section? What color was the dog? Oksana is saying brown. Okay, maybe. All right. Okay, good. Brown dog. Good job. Okay. How many balloons did you see in the picture? But they will not write just brown. They will need to write the dog is brown. Okay. Yelena said, I didn't even notice. Okay. They can write, there were 0 balloons. There was 1 balloon. Okay. 4. Galina is saying 4. Let's check. Okay. Yes, the dog was brown, and there was a balloon. There was 1 pink balloon over there. So what you do is you turn off the picture and you ask them some questions. You prepare the questions beforehand, and it's good if you can find a picture with a story or some plot, and if you come up with questions which make them write a sort of a story, why not? But it's not necessary. You can just ask random questions. When they're finished, they exchange pieces of writing with their partners, and you show them the picture, and they need to look at the text their partner wrote and correct the mistakes with a red pen. This is their favorite part. This is reading, writing combined. This is actually from Fun for Movers by Anne Robinson. This picture, I took it from this book. So yes, pictures are great. You can try drawing dictations when you have this text and you dictate this text to your students, and they need to listen and they draw the picture of the story. They do not write anything, they just draw a picture of the story. When you're finished, they look at their picture and rewrite the story with their own words. And this is already not copying, this is already something more creative, I think, because after all, in result, you will get, if you have 10 students, you'll have 10 different stories. For one student, one thing was very important. For the second student, something else was more important. They will highlight different things in the story, and you will get 10 different stories. But why not? You may even want to organize this drawing dictation in a kind of a storyboard. So you read the beginning of the story, they draw the beginning of the story, then you read the middle of the story and they draw this, and then you read the end and they draw the end. And when you're done, they'll have to write 3 sentences about picture 1, 3 sentences about picture 2, and 3 sentences about picture 3. So yeah, and if you have recognized, this is also from YLE, this format, they have this in flyers, this kind of written assignment. But why can't it be based on listening to you or reading some famous fairy tale? Why not? Yeah, you can provide them with some words on the board, but it's also not necessary, I think. Pictures are great. And if you teach online, you can also use smileys. Yes, you can take a fairy tale or a story from your course book, and you can write this story with smileys. And then you show this story on your television or your computer screen. And the students look at the smileys and they write this story. They try to guess what this means. For example, a crown. Yeah, maybe it's a king. Okay, a king, a fish. Okay, a king had a fish. Okay, a sheep. And he also had a sheep. Oh no, I know. He caught a fish when he was on a sheep. Okay, great. So they write this story. You give them some time. Then they read their stories out loud, and we enjoy listening to each other. And then we will read the original story and do some exercises with it. Yeah, and then they can even use their smileys to write their smiley stories and send it to the chat, and everybody will have to unscramble their smiley stories. And you can build a whole lesson on this smiley idea, actually. So pictures are great, but not only pictures can be prompts for your writing. Words can help a lot. You can simply do the same as we did in banana dictation before, but you write it on the board, and instead of, well, you erase some of the words in the sentence, and you ask your students to fill in the gaps in their notebooks in a written form. Next time, there will be a little bit more gaps, a little bit less text, and so on until gradually, at some point, you will just write one word on the board and you will say, write a story that begins with this word, or write a story that ends with this word. Yeah, so something like this. Mad Leaps, right? This is something like this, some sort of activity like this. When you first give them a page, you do not explain anything, you just give them this page. Noun 1, noun 2, noun 3, noun 5, verb 1, verb 2, and so on. You ask them to work in pairs, and they just brainstorm some random words. Noun, potato, tomato, carrot, orange, sausage, and so on. And then you explain why they were doing that. You give them page 2 and ask to fill in the gaps with the words they brainstormed. And you'll get a crazy soup recipe, or a funny princess description, or whatever you need to do at this point. Or you can write a text in present simple, and you ask your students to rewrite this text in the past simple. Or you can take a famous fairy tale and intentionally make mistakes in this fairy tale. Or this is what we did at Christmas time. I think some of you saw this worksheet already. Christmas trees are usually pink in the summer and blue in the winter. What? They're not pink, they're green. Wrong, wrong. And you just rewrite this text correctly. So this is both reading and writing, which is great. Words, they can really help to boost kids' creativity, to unleash this creativity, so to say. And the only thing you need is literally a board and a piece of chalk or a marker. What we do, we create a text out of just one word. So you write a cat on the board. You have two teams, team A, team B, and you have this cat on the board. Team A have to add one word, and this must be grammatically correct, and this shouldn't be insane. So it should be logically somehow connected and grammatically corrected. If they can do this, great. For example, they can say fat cat. Ooh, good. Team A, good. Okay, team B, and team B, a fat cat sat. Okay, fine, all right. Team A, a fat cat sat on a mat. Oh, good. Team B, a fat cat sat on a green mat, and so on. And this sentence is growing and growing until nobody can add anything. Yeah, that's why it's called the pyramid, because it looks like a pyramid. You can do the opposite when you have a very long sentence and they kill words one by one until it's just one word again. Yes, so this is a way to teach them to write bigger pieces of text themselves. But to do some really serious writing, this was about copying, right? Copying. But to do some really serious stuff, you will have to have this word bank, and the word banks can be topic-based or random word banks. Let's start with random word banks. So they're just crazy words not connected with each other, but when you see them all, somehow a story is born in your head and you can write about this. How can you create random word banks? Take a die. The students work in pairs. They roll the die. Okay, two. Two. And I look here and I see two words that have two letters. Okay. On and eat. Okay, I roll the die and it says three. Three words that have three letters. Can you help me in the chat box, please? Three words that have three letters. Oh, this is hard. This is a little more difficult. So they can see this on the board. One word, one letter, two words, two letters. This is on the board. Okay, Pete, Pat, Matt, cat, dog, red. Good, but Ross, you. Okay, eat it. Oh, there's a lot. Great, thank you. And they do this in pairs, one by one. They roll the die. They write their words, and they'll have to spend like 2-3 minutes doing that. And then you finally explain why, why they've been doing that. They need to take all these words and come up with a story. Of course, they will not be able to use all of this, but usually they can use most of this. Well, at least 80% is good. And the stories are funny and good and great, and this helps them to imagine, so why not do this? Or if you know memory games, can you play memory games? Please let me know if you know. Write a plus. If I need to explain the rules, write a minus in the chat, please. Memory games. You can use memory games for writing. Yeah, I can see a lot of pluses. There's one minus. Okay. Well, you take cards. Let's see how you can do this with writing. You take sentences, say 5, 6 sentences, and you cut them in the middle. And then you put all these sentences face down on your table. Right. 2 teams, team A, team B. A member of team A comes to the board and takes 2 cards. And it says, dancing is very fast. Well, it makes sense. It makes sense. I think it's okay. It's grammatically correct. Good job, team A. Yay! Let's make some noise. And they are. Woohoo! 1 point to team A. Good job. Everybody take your pen and write it down. And everybody writes down, dancing is very fast. Okay, good. Team B, come here. And they take the cards. And unfortunately, it doesn't match. Sorry, you don't get a plus. And we do not write anything. If this sentence is not grammatically correct, we don't do nothing. We do nothing. And so on. So team A, team B, team A, team B, team A, team B. Well, until everything is open and they have a few crazy sentences in their notebooks. And then the teacher finally says why they have been doing this. Because we will need to write a text using all these sentences you've written. And they will usually get some really crazy but fun texts out of these sentences. They can add as many words as they want to, but they need to use all of this. Yeah. Your word bank can be topic based. So it can be based on something. On a picture, for example. So you have a picture with a lot of people, actions, and so on. And you have 3 groups: nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Nouns, look at the picture and write only nouns they can see in the picture. Verbs, write only verbs. Adjectives, only adjectives. Go. 2 minutes. They write. Then you say stop, and you mix your students, but this time you try to make new groups where you have got nouns, verbs, and adjectives. So someone with nouns, someone with verbs, and someone with adjectives, so that they can exchange and make a good word bank to write about this picture. Yeah, and then they write. This can be their home assignment, for example. Or you can do the same with listening. When they listen to something and one group is writing, or watch a film, one group will be writing nouns, verbs, and adjectives, and then they will exchange ideas. Okay, we can do quite a lot of things, really, and you would never think of writing as of a group activity, but it is a powerful tool to first bring all your students together, and second, to practice writing a lot. For example, speed dating style, the rules are simple. Students A are in the center, students B are outside. Students B have nothing. Students A have a piece of paper, and they draw this, 2 circles on a piece of paper. And in the middle of the circles, they will write some ideas. They will get, for example, 2 animals, a crocodile and a lizard. And they will write here in the middle, they will write what both a crocodile and a lizard have. For example, they're both green. They're both, they both have 4 legs, and so on. In object 1, they will write what a lizard has. In object 2, they'll write what a crocodile has only. And every pair will have their own animals. Crocodile and lizard, monkey and tiger, a bear and a mouse, and so on. They have 2 minutes. They think, brainstorm ideas, and write them down. And then the teacher says, change. And students B need to stand up and go to the next person and help the next person to brainstorm ideas about this person's animals. And then again, change. They stand up and go to the next person. And when they finally come back to their original partner, they will have a good, very good word bank with ideas they can use to write about these animals at home or in the classroom, whatever you want. They'll have a lot of ideas they can use, and they will be good ideas connected with each other. And yeah, why not do that? Or this old Russian game called nonsense. Nonsense in Russian, you know, where you have a piece of paper and you need to fold it. For example, we can use it in our lessons too. When the teacher says who, and everybody, okay, crocodile, Gena the crocodile, okay. And somebody else will write somebody else, like Puss in Boots or Shrek and so on. And then they fold it, give it to the person on the left, take a piece of paper from the person on the right, and the teacher says, where? In the forest, in the park, in the gym, and so on. Fold it, give it to the person on the left, take it from the person on the right. What did they do? They drank milk, ate sausages, and so on. Fold it, and so on, until my original piece of writing comes back to me. I unfold this story, and I read it out loud, and it's usually a very funny story. Yeah, so you can do the same with describing criminals. We are all cowboys and we're looking for a specific person. We need to know what this person looks like. We need to prepare a description, and it can be a description of this bad person, or it can be a crazy recipe of something. Why not? No, it's not Chinese whispers, but it's actually a great activity too. Yes. Well, there are lots and lots of group activities like that. We can make it different every time. For example, we can take a big piece of paper, put it on the table, divide it into 4 sectors, and every student chooses, you provide them with a list of different ideas or titles or beginnings of sentences. We did it when we studied the second conditional. So Masha wanted to write about this. If I could fly, I would. And she starts writing in her sector. Petya, if I could see through the walls, I would. And he starts writing in his sector. Kostya, if I were invisible, I would. And he starts writing in his sector, and so on. So 4 sectors, 4 students. The teacher says, change, and they stand up and go to the next sector clockwise. So I come to Petya's sector and I read everything he wrote, and I need to continue his story. I must write at least 1 sentence, and I cannot read the same. So it should be something else, something new. Change. They go to the next sector, change, they go to the next sector, and then they finally come back to their original story. And this is usually also crazy, but anyways, you can use it. Why not? They can base their fairy tale, whatever it is, they will write at home on what they did in the class, and it's fun, and they will write a lot, so they'll practice a lot. So why not? Once Stephen King said that if you do not have time to read, you do not have time to write. And I think that he is right. He is right. If you do not read anything, you cannot produce anything. So if you want your kids to write a lot, you first need to make them read a lot. And you need to do both, I think. You need to read and write yourself. So there are a lot of activities for reading and writing, but I will share just a few with you today. my favorite t-shirt for writing. You know, we usually have pictures and some words on our t-shirts, and usually these are pictures and words we like. Yeah, for example, I have a t-shirt which says teachers are people who help solving problems they created. For example, so this says something about me. Why not ask your students, design a t-shirt for the main character of a story you've just read. For instance, what t-shirt would Sherlock Holmes wear? What would be written on it? Please let me know in the comment section. I really want to know your ideas. Sherlock Holmes, what picture would there be? A pipe, or what or maybe Dr. Watson's photo? I don't know. What would there be? So you read a story, and after that you ask them to design a t-shirt for the main character. Galina is saying cap, a cap. Okay. Okay, Oksana is saying, I see you, what you are up to. Okay, Lyubov is saying that the hat, there will be a hat. Okay, whatever. They design a t-shirt, then they present their project and explain why they think this should be written on this character's t-shirt. Elementary, yes, elementary, Watson. Why not? Yeah. The violin, Yelena is saying, why not? Great ideas. Then, when they're done, you say that you prepared your own project. You show them a picture of a t-shirt of an unknown character. So there's something written on this t-shirt, some pictures, and you say, well, guys, unfortunately, there's no story for this character. So maybe you can help me and design a story for this for this character, and they will have to write a text about a person who could wear this t-shirt you designed. So this is kind of yeah, it can boost their creativity. Or you can ask your students to write a letter to the main character of the story. Or if the author of the story is still alive, why not write a letter to the author of this story? This could be great fun, especially if you know that the author will respond. This will be huge, I promise. Once we wrote a letter to Julia Donaldson, and this was like, wow, this is great fun. I'm not sure that you can do it right now, but try to find the email of your favorite author and just write a class letter to this person. I think it would be a really nice thing to do. So yeah, play with words. What if the main character decided to take a different decision in the middle of the story? What if Kolobok didn't go for a walk? What if he stayed at home? What if what would happen? What would have happened? I don't know. Or you could write a sequel of this story. For example, you know the story about Masha and the bears. What happened with Masha? Where is she now? What does she do? Where does she work? Is she grown up, or is she still a small girl? I don't know. Why not? Or create a brand new setting for the story. For example, the Three Little Pigs. What if the story was not in Russia, but somewhere in New York? Would the story have been different? Yeah, it would definitely have been different. So yeah, ask them to write about this. Ask them to write their stories. Well, and yes, we are teachers. And the story of the future generations is literally in our hands, and it's up to us whether to write a short story or a thriller or a kind fairy tale. Thank you very much, dear friends. I was very excited and pleased to be here. If you have questions, do write them in the comment section. If you have some personal questions, you can always drop me a message on my blog or send me an email. I'll be glad to help you find the materials you are looking for. By the way, most of the things I have been talking about today are in my blog, so you can go there and download them for free. This is free stuff. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased and delighted to be a guest. Thank you for all these kind words you're writing in the chat. Julia, thank you for inviting me here. I don't see questions, but guys, really, if you have questions, drop me a message. I'll try to help you if I can.
Thank you, Artyom. Thank you for all these brilliant ideas. I've just shared the link to your VK profile. Dear friends, Artyom has
Thank you.
many ideas. So if you want to work with your imagination, so please the link, and I'm sure that it will be really helpful. Thank you very much, and it's always a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
The same here. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Enjoy
Bye-bye,
the-
Julia. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, dear friends, that was the last session of our conference, and I think that the event was really successful. Please type your comments in the chat box. Your feedback is needed. I hope that you enjoyed all this session. So I'd like to sum up. Yesterday we talked about teaching. We didn't speak a lot about Wiley exams. There were some nice ideas on developing different skills. So today we focused on assessment. Our presenter, Alberto from Brazil, he shared great information about assessment criteria, and Robinson explained how to make lessons and exam preparation more interactive, and now we see that exam preparation can be fun. Pablo shared lots of useful resources by Cambridge Assessment English. These resources are free, and please use them. And these brilliant ideas presented by Artyom. So I hope that you really liked it, and I'd like to remind you that the recording of the webinar will be available. It will be published on our YouTube channel, Cambridge Assessment English Russia, and next week we will share the link with you and your certificates of attendance. And before we say goodbye, I want to show you a video. So this video is in Russian, but I see that there are lots of people from Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan. I'm sure that you will understand. But in case you don't speak Russian, I think that you will understand the context. And just a second. Please let me know in the chat that you can see the video and you can hear it.
Мы все постепенно привыкаем к новому образу жизни. Наши авторизованные экзаменационные центры, а также центры по подготовке делают все возможное, чтобы школьники и студенты продолжали подготовку и сдачу кембриджских экзаменов. А учителя получали ту поддержку, которую они привыкли получать от департамента экзаменов Кембриджского университета. Уроки продолжаются очно в школах или в дистанционном формате. Вы не одни на этом пути. Вместе мы вдохновляем учеников на новые достижения. Учителя адаптировали уроки по подготовке к экзаменам. Несмотря на все сложности, в центре их внимания всегда остаются ученики. Наша работа продолжается. С сентября по сегодняшний день только благодаря вам мы провели 1000 кембриджских экзаменов. Cambridge Assessment English идет вперед.
Cambridge Assessment English goes on, and we would like to thank you, first of all, our preparation centers, teachers, for your support. And if you need any help, if you have any questions, please contact us. It's a pleasure for us to be here with you today. So enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy the weekend. In Russia, there will be some extra days off due to public holidays. So have a nice rest, stay healthy, stay safe, and see you next time. Goodbye.